All right. Shiva, can you hear us and see us?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes, we can hear you. Hopefully, you can enhance his voice a little bit more. Um, First of all, thank you for taking the time to be with us, Shiva. I know it's a busy time, and Shiva did try to be here in person. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it in person, so we had a good chat, and then I kind of convinced him that he should at least show up virtually. And I know that we don't do too much of these virtual sessions, but I thought this was worth for us to have a great conversation with Shiva because of the fact that you would have heard it from the morning till now. There were many times that we refer to the ANRF as a vehicle, as an entity. So Shiva, a lot of expectations, no pressure, by the way. But I must tell you that, this ANRF, as all of you know, was set up to truly provide high-level strategic interventions and directions for research, innovation, etc. in our country. And so, what better person for us to sort of, give us a sense of what is really going on, and then some of the issues that we talked about, right? So Shiva, we're going to come back to you with some questions around, what really is going on between the fact that we are announcing all these big research grants and everything else at the top, but by the time it trickles down to the startups, and sometimes you find that it's not really reaching the startup in the right way that we want to. So we're going to address some of that as we move forward. But before all of that, Shiva, I have a different question for you, right? And we want to be sure that you're one amongst us. What I mean is, he came from the industry. So, of course, like most of us, spend a lot of time, and he also worked with one of my alma maters, which is IBM, and he did a great job with IBM Research, Microsoft, and a few other organizations. So, you spent all of this time with the corporate world. What really motivated for you in making this transition to a government entity, ANRF? I mean, we're glad that you did this, right? So we're not saying that you shouldn't have done that, but I just want to understand from you, what really was the motivation for you to make this transition, and what are your broad goals and objectives, if you may?
Look, first, thank you for having me, and my apologies that I couldn't be there in person. So hopefully next time. Look, I think we all want to make a difference and impact, and like Gandhiji said, if you want to be the change, if you want to change, see change, you have to be the change. Right? So there was this opportunity, somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, they're looking for somebody with a combination of industry and academic expertise to allocate capital in this area. So would you be interested? So I said, what is the NRF at that time? So just like you might have a question of what is the NRF, so I had the same question. And then, but here I am.
Thank you.
So hopefully, we can make, hopefully I can bridge the two sides and make a difference.
Excellent, excellent. Look, Shiva, do you know this more than anybody else in the room, that when you look at the India R&D landscape, we know that, and we spoke about it in a few sessions earlier as well. India spends R&D spending is roughly about 0.7% of the GDP as of now, and it kind of remained kind of at the same level for a while now. Clearly, we have a bigger ambition. People throw numbers like 2% is a sort of minimum threshold if you want to get anywhere close to most countries around the globe. And then the recently approved RDI scheme, which kind of addresses some of that, and it's sort of a major step in terms of getting us to that level of spending for R&D, be it governmental spending or private sector funding, etc. So from your perspective, when you look at this differently, what are your near-term priorities for rolling out the RDI scheme very effectively? I know that it's very new, fresh, so I'm sure you're thinking about how do you want to do this. So give us some insights as to how are we really thinking about this. And for the organizations present here today, we have a lot of various type of organizations here today, right? But when we look at all of them, how can they engage with the ANRF or submit proposals under this framework so that they can get started, honestly? So any thoughts from you, Shivkumar?
Yeah. So I think if I can just zoom out a little bit, right? So NRF has two parts of its agenda. One is our core agenda where we do grant capital, where we give grants for research, and that those grants are given to typically it's been academia or research labs and so on. When I say research labs, typically it's been national research labs and so on, but we are broadening the set of institutions. And as part of our mission mode programs, we are increasingly going to liberalize further to have in a specific project a combination of academia, research labs, and startups, etc. as well, right? So that's one class. We are also in talks with different ministries to be part of, to partner with them for R&D schemes that are part of major mission mode initiatives as well. So there, the grant capital can go to industry as well. So even though traditionally grant capital has been to academia, we are broadening the mix. We are having more industry academic collaboration, more translational investments, and more direct grant to industry as well. But this is, I would say a little bit of TBD, where we are currently in the process of setting up various teams and so on. So I don't want to jump the gun on various teams. But the government is being quite bold and decisive in some of these areas. That's part one. So this is grant capital. Okay. Now RDI, which refers to the 1 lakh crore fund, or Research Development and Innovation Fund. So that is not grants. Okay. So that is actually balance sheet capital. Now, the way it works is that the funds are appropriated by Parliament, and it comes into ANRF as a special purpose fund. So we have a special purpose fund structure that will be set up. Now we are awaiting a governing board meeting with the Honorable Prime Minister, and once that is finalized in the next couple of months, that a particular structure will be set up, so that we are a custodian of that funds. Then we don't make the investment decisions of that capital directly. ANRF's Executive Council, of which I'm a member secretary, and then a empowered group of secretaries will designate specific second level fund managers who will be given some of these this capital, and there can be a multiplier effect or crowding in of more capital. And together, each one will be given a type of investment to make and a horizon to make. So it's broadly patient capital of different forms, but it could be some form of debt, some form of equity, some form of hybrid, and so on and so forth. Right. So the nature of that investments and those vehicles could vary depending upon the specific vehicle that is being used. So those appointments of second level fund managers will be made as soon as our second special purpose fund is operationalized, and some will be started. But then over time, there could be other funds that are set up, right? So if there are capital providers in the room, whether those are venture capitalists or LPs, or there are even venture arms of companies, there are some conversations going on how they could potentially participate to set up those second level funds and essentially be potentially fund managers and so on. So some selection of second level fund managers will happen for different vertical areas. And then those investment decisions will be run through professional investment committees, right? So that's the long and short of it. So to be run professionally, the government will be ultimately an LP into many of these things, but there will be a crowding in of more capital. But the nature of the arrangements will be that the government will be a patient capital, and also the governance structure will be set up that it will be different from classic venture capital funds, so that way it will be more patient capital. So that's what the industry needs, right? Or the startup for DeepTech.
So Shivkumar, a follow-up question on that, right? I know that we have various models of funding from ANRF in general, whether it is RDA or otherwise. Sometimes there are grants, sometimes there are equity participation, sometimes there are other types of, you mentioned a couple of other steps. Do you have a preference in which you would like to work with a startup in terms of a certain type of funding? I know that it varies depending on the context, but is there a broad guidelines that you could, maybe share with our audience today, saying that this is kind of the funding that normally, of course, everybody want to sort of have grants, but that's not always the way we want to go with. So, is there any specific thoughts that you can share in terms of the type of assistance, if you may?
Rajesh, I would just say that what is there today is not going to be indicative of what will be there in 6 months from now or 1 year from now, because we are going to ramp up quite a lot over the coming few months and year plus. So today we are mostly doing grant capital at the lower levels of TRLs, primarily academia and labs and so on. But we'll be broadening it out in the context of sort of mission mode programs where there will be specific opportunities for startups. That's one class. Now, I would say that the total aggregate amount of money will be much larger in the RDI, which is meant to be scale up and translational capital. That is not grants, right? So that is some form of balance sheet capital, whether it's convertible debt, whether it's those are all details for that. So I would say if you're just worried about the total amount of capital, it is RDI which would be the preferred vehicle. There are going to be some sector-specific investments that may come out over the next several months. So those could be grants or it could go through RDI, right? So we are going to be using different instruments which may be appropriate for either different sectors or in our own mission mode, early to mid-stage investments, those will be primarily planned. So right now I'm running a grant shop and we are broadening out our grant shop and making sure that our operations are great. But then, so that will be available and we will increasingly have more flexibility there. But right now we don't have that levels of flexibility. So it's not like a lot of capital is available directly from ANRF for startups right now in the grant world. But we'll be slowly liberalizing and more of our schemes, there will be opportunities for participation. And then the RDI is definitely for private sector as a whole. Companies of all sizes can participate there, and of course, definitely startups and DeepTech startups is the clear, set of strategic topics that we're looking at.
No, that's very helpful. That's very helpful, Shiva. One more related question, and I know I have a couple more topics to go. And then, if any of you want to ask any question to Shiva, please do get prepared. And then I'm going to come to you very quickly. I can only take 2 questions, so if there are 2 questions in the audience, I'll ask them to come back to you. But before I do that, Shiva, the moose on the table, as they say, right, is the fact that we announce all these big numbers, 10,000 crores fund of funds for startups and deep tech. We have RDI, we have semiconductor mission, we have AI mission, we have quantum mission. Somehow these numbers don't seem to be translating. If I'm a deep tech startup in India, and if I don't have the right connections, and if I don't understand what is really going on, and I believe that it's harder for people to get to these numbers, or to get right kind of, whether it is grant, whether it is equity participation, whether it is some kind of other capital. I've always keep hearing that there is a bit of a slip between the cup and the lip, as they say. There is at the political leadership, there is willingness. At the bureaucratic leadership, there is willingness to sort of take this down. But somehow, they seem to be getting lost, or in the bureaucracy, or in the way they apply. I know it's not an easy problem to solve, and it's not a Shivkumar problem alone, right? It's a much bigger problem. It's a national issue. But do you have you given any thought saying that how do we really solve it for the startups once and for all?
See, look, I think there are a few things that we need to get right. One is we need to get money out in a timely manner, so that even in our grant world, that's one of the areas that I've been working very hard with the ANRF team to make sure that when we say we're going to give grant, approved a project, get the money out fast, right? So, it's interesting that one of the big challenges in government is getting money out seems to be harder than getting money in. Okay? So it's the reverse in the private sector. So anyway, but that part, we are getting on top of, at least right now in our grant world. The second is communication, right? So I would urge, entities like Nasscom and the other entities, whether it's CI or others, right, to be close with us. So that way, we've been very consultative in the process of doing this. I should also recognize that most of the ANRF is not a policy shop. All the policy and the nodal agency for the RDI specifically is DSP, which is right across our building here. So they'll be working with us closely in terms of operationalizing RDI specifically. But look, I think historically, whether it is getting money out or maybe the pre-qualification and all those criteria, have they been more over-constraining so that it is not worth the time? Second is startups have felt that, or any entity, not just startups, there's too much work to get the money. It's not transparent, or all these other sorts of things, right? So we are trying to do sensible things here, at least in the next iteration, so that we get money out quickly. Second is have professional managers operate the allocation of capital and decisions, have merit-based selection, and also be clear and about the particular programs. And then I would urge that with Nasscom and others, we should have either fora like this or thing, so that there's more consultative things either at the early stage or more dissemination, so that it's clear what's being expected, and is government more hindrance rather than more helpful in the capital problem.
That
So,
is
but
helpful.
I would say let's work together.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Shiva. So, pivoting into something which is also in my mind for a while is we also spoke about the participation of the academia into the broader India's R&D ecosystem, etc. Right? One of the long-standing challenges we've always had in India is also the translating academic research into commercially viable solutions. Right? This has been a big challenge. You've been in commercial organizations, you've been in enterprises, so on. You understand this. What is the role you see ANRF playing in bridging this critical gap between academic innovation and real-world applications or commercially viable solutions?
Yeah. See, look, I think if you were to say one important thing that ANRF has to do, it is to promote collaboration between all the stakeholders so that we get better return on capital on the aggregate return investment, on the total R&D investments, right? See, we talk a lot about this 0.6 to 0.7% of GDP. Now, as any investor would say that when would you invest more capital into R&D or any thing, right? One is when you see the return on investments. So you can't have an ambassador car and sort of sort of like an engine like that, yeah, versus having something like a new modern Jaguar or Tesla engine. You first need to convert that engine and so on. So we believe that a key missing ingredient is collaboration. Collaboration is between people, even within departments or within a discipline, or collaborations between interdisciplinary within academia or between academia and research labs and national labs, and then between academia and industry, right? So NRF is going to do several things to promote collaboration. Now, the very simple way we are thinking about it is we're going to be having many programs where to get our money, you have to collaborate. Okay, I'll repeat it once more. If to get our money, you have to collaborate. There are some programs which are more individual-centric and so on, but more of the big money or the bigger grant programs or other things we will do, we will expect collaboration, and also we'll govern that better. So those are the two things we intend to do. And as part of that, there will be many programs, right? So one is within our broad-based ARG or Advanced Research Grant Program. These are small grant programs, but even there we are promoting collaboration and with industry, with honorary PI structures and all that. With bigger grant programs like our mission mode, where we give 50 crores or 20 crores or 30 crores. So those sorts of programs are towards an outcome. We want to govern better towards those outcomes. And those are programs where we also are going to fund startups in some of our programs that are going to come up shortly. I can't pre-announce some of these, but increasingly we'll be having in a single project, we'll have academia and startups, etc. Right? So we can participate in a single grant program. So we're going to experiment that with one of our missions. If it works, we will do it for other missions. Right? So that's our thought process. And then finally, we are also going to invest in translation facilities or other things where, again, explicitly for translational capability from academia to industry. Now, not all of academic research will translate to industry. It's just that some subset, let's say 5-10% of great academic work that has a translation potential can translate. Even that would be a huge, huge impact in the country. Right now, I believe the number is far, far lower than that. Right? So I think our goal is to help, drive foundational investments, get the habit of collaboration, and all have more stakeholders getting involved in these things, and frankly, more stakeholders putting skin in the game, so that we get into the habit of collaboration and therefore better outcomes.
Excellent. No, Shivkumar, that's very, very helpful. I know, as I promised, I do have a couple more questions before I wrap up. Let's go with the gentleman there. Somebody can give him a mic? The gentleman with a nice pink coat. I like your coat, brother.
Thank you.
You want to stand up, introduce yourself maybe?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Raghu Adla. I'm founder of a deep tech startup called Paninian Aerospace. We are building indigenous autonomous tech stack for combat aerial vehicles. So my question to the... Okay, yeah. So my question for you would be, past 5 years in this space, I've been learning that we are solving properly some of the problems which are left over by the previous generation in India. So it's not exactly that the future we are solving. So there is a bit of backlog in terms of advanced materials or gas turbine technologies, or even if you talk about even multiphysics solvers. We have not written indigenous solvers yet. So would ANRF also factor in that there was a bit of tech baggage which we have, which still has to be sorted out before we take a leap into the future? And that still requires fundamental research and also grant support.
Thank you. Shiva, did you
I
get
hope
that
my
question?
question is clear.
Yeah. Sort of more past baggage, etc. Right? But the way I would frame it is, you talked a lot about very interesting advanced motors or individual solvers and things like that, right? So I'm happy to mention that, don't think it is a pre-announcement. We're going to have a program coming out very soon called AI for Science and Engineering, where science and engineering can be directly modeled in AI. And then, and as part of that, many open source models will be put out on an MIT license and things like that. So that can be, again, there for several verticals, like aerospace could be one of the verticals. You could have open digital twins for AI digital twins for some of these areas. And all the way from biology to astrophysics to many other areas. So we're going to put a serious money in this area for grants in the space. And and also we plan to have a lot of challenges or Kaggle contests. So, for example, that specific problem you mentioned, maybe we'll not build a solver in the old way, but we may have a solver that maybe an AI solver, right? So, the AI surrogate simulation of sorts, right? So those are kinds of things which we are thinking about. And similarly, in the medical technologies area, we are thinking of a mission which will come out shortly as well. So these are a couple of areas where you'll see more directed investments coming from us. But we'll be putting out more of these programs over time. Every 2-3 months we'll be doing.
Excellent. Thank you, Shiva. And the next question coming from...
Good evening. I am Chetan from C-Camp Bangalore. It is a startup accelerator and incubator. I particularly work from the Office of Tech Transfer in C-Camp. And I travel across the country trying to commercialize the technologies coming out of from many legacy government R&D organizations. One common problem across many of the institutes that I have seen is that, they don't have the proper IP policy in place. Many of the prominent R&D organizations as well. And when I talk to the senior management of these R&D organizations, they say that, I don't even know. I really want to have a IP policy for the institute, but I am a faculty here. I am doing DeepTech and whatnot, but I don't know anything about IP. Can you help frame an IP policy for our organization? So we do support them on and off basis, but I guess an organization like either ANRF or DPD, DST or BIRAC, they must come up with a policy template or a framework, which is like a guideline for these all the private or public institutes. They can take cues from them. They can tweak it in whatever convenient way as per the requirements of that institute. I think this will go a long way in supporting commercialization of technologies from any of these institutes. Also, secondly, I must say that these IP policies must be more the inventor or the academic, the faculty friendly. They should not just get 20% of a licensing deal. They should get really what they deserve. That should keep them motivated towards going commercialization. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's an excellent set of points. I did visit C-Camp and visited your center sometime back. But what I would say is that we are interested in having some of these commons where we put out some of these draft or guidelines thing. See, first for ANRF's own policy, our goal is to have a simple policy where whatever we fund, our grantees have the IP, and then we are giving simple guidelines for them to sing, because we don't want to be too prescriptive as government as a hammer. But there are potential best practices or templates or model agreements and other things. We are interested in doing that. It's just that I haven't gotten around to that. But if you're willing to volunteer and help me write some of those, we welcome that. In fact, I would make this an open offer to the entrepreneurs and others. Whatever frictions you're facing in your deal making and others, please come and let us know. We are open to having some commons and sensible things, and just like iSpirit and so on, if we can have a working group that can create something sensible and give it to us, we are open to working with you together to, and then putting that as there are different levels of things, right? One is mandates. We typically try to avoid mandates, especially if the IP belongs to a counterparty. But we can give model agreements. We can give other sorts of commons of sorts. So that's a great point you made. And again, I would welcome the community to please participate in these sorts of things. It's not like I don't want to do it. It's just that my bandwidth is limited. So I would invite the community to participate in these things.
Sure, thank you. I will connect with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva. Any other questions before we go to the next one?
So I was just joking. I was saying, when can I expect the draft? Okay.
I will try to, I will try my level best, coordinate with my team, and come back to you. Thank you.
No, that's not a deadline. I mean, you have to give a deadline.
Thank you. All right. Last question for you, Shiva, before we wrap up. You know, ANRF has been trusted with a sort of a really bold and very transformative mission, and our hopes are very high. And then I know that, as I mentioned, the number of times that we've spoken about ANRF today is a testimony to the fact that you're representing an organization where there is a lot of hope for India, right, and hope for the DeepTech startup ecosystem as well from today's meeting perspective. So from where you see this, what does success look like for you, both in the near term, which is I would say a couple of years, over the long-term horizon, which is probably 10 years from now, and since we are here at the Nasscom forum with key stakeholders from all across industry, startups, and the rest of the ecosystem. We have people who fund us and so on and so forth. What would be your call of action for the community, and what support or engagement do you hope to see going forward?
Well, thank you, Rajesh. I think that's a very, very important question, and I have a long wish list, to ask. But in terms of as you know, just like running any longer-term strategic things, in the early phases, there'll be more measurements on inputs. Okay, how much money did we put in? This, whether it's 50,000 crore or 1 lakh crore, and all of this. How do we operationalize this? Similarly, right now in the last 3-4 months, I've been focused on pushing money out, streamlining things. The second thing I would request the community is please follow ANRF handles on Twitter or LinkedIn, or connect with me, etc. So we are becoming quite active in LinkedIn to use social media as a first-class citizen or a first-class form of technical dissemination. So we have put requirements on all our grantees to do social media. Okay? So social media not just for PR or marketing purposes, but social media for technical dissemination, right? So, and also we are creating channels and other sorts of things, and we'll be amplifying it in various ways. We may have regular webinars, other sorts of engagement modalities, and so on, right? So, but I would say the early phase over the next year to 18 months, I'd be focused more on input metrics, right? Just how many grants we give, how much we deploy out there, how many people we touch, how many whatever impressions, blah blah. Okay. But then as we go towards the 2-year mark and beyond, I would like to see some early outcomes, right? Evidence of collaboration, evidence of interdisciplinary things that have led to something interesting, right? Or that's having potential. And then over a 5-year mark and so on, really the transition towards India as a product-oriented market and so on. The other thing, since you have a mixed audience of GCCs as well as startups and others, I would like to also make a plea to the companies and others here to please consider India as a research partner for the world. I said research and not R&D, okay, or research and innovation, not R&D. The reason is that, very simple. When I moved back from the US to India, there existed IBM research, there existed Microsoft research, there existed Bell Labs. That made it easy for me to plonk, leave a cushy tenured full professor job and come to India, right? And now we've been around for a long time, right? Of course, we have a great ecosystem and so on. But I'd like to see GCCs, I'd like to see companies which are interested in deep tech and so on set up more research facilities, research labs. Come talk to us if you have issues in doing that, or where there are frictions or areas where we can co-invest. I'm open to that, those kinds of sort of interesting conversations where we can drive more of the network effects, or where we can drive a lot more of spillovers, right? So, so those are a couple of call-outs for either the bigger companies and so on, right? For the others in general, I would say, community, please participate. Don't sit back and expect, right? So I have taken the jump to come over this side move from Kushi, Bangalore to Delhi here, okay, and become a bureaucrat and so on, right? So, but we are trying to change the system, and it's a 24/7 job here. I know things are extremely tight and many things are happening, but we need a lot of help, right? So we are limited by human capital, we are limited by thing, right? So actually, as of today or tomorrow, I'm going to be putting out announcements for experts that we're going to be hiring in ANRF, right? And of course, the positions initially are going to be in Delhi, but maybe in the future we'll have much more location flexibility. But please consider joining ANRF, or please, if you don't want to join us, please consider volunteering, perhaps either in individual capacity or in a high spirit type capacity. But you have to do it in a way that I can actually engage, right? So because my bandwidth is also limited, so on. Just like another, or you could take up a piece of activity like help me build an MIT license that makes sense, or help me put together technology transfer agreement that makes sense, and so on, right? So we are happy to engage with you in various ways. Similarly, we have technical expert committees. If I want to have industry academic collaboration, I'd like to see more of that. So short answer, participate more. We are open. I know I'm available on LinkedIn. You can just connect with me and reach out to me and so on and so forth. Similarly, we will try to be more of a transparent organization, and hopefully that will also bridge the communication gaps. And maybe with Nasscom, if there are more interesting forums and other things where we can be a better communicator, we'd love to do that.
Very, very well said, Shiva. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. On behalf of Nasscom, I want to thank you one more time for, I know it was, we had to sort of juggle around the schedule a little bit for you to be with us. But, it is an honor to have you speak to us, give us some sense of what ANRF can do, especially for the startup community. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Shivkumar Kalyanaraman. Let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, guys. You guys are the heroes and heroines, and do great things, and be in touch. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.